No doctor could cure the millionaire's son until a homeless girl did the impossible. The autumn sun spilled gold over the city plaza. But for Richard Cole, the light felt cold. He walked briskly in his dark suit, one hand clutching his briefcase, the other gripping the handle of his son's wheelchair. 7-year-old Daniel sat slouched, his sandy blonde hair falling into his pale blue eyes, a lavender polo shirt and jeans, making him look like any ordinary boy, except he hadn't taken a step in over a year. Daniel's legs, once strong and restless, had gone silent after an unexplained illness. Every doctor Richard could afford, and he could afford the best, had tried and failed. They'd flown to clinics in Switzerland, specialists in Boston, therapists in Los Angeles. Nothing. The verdict was always the same: permanent damage. Each failed treatment was another brick in the wall between father and son. Richard had stopped hoping. Daniel had stopped smiling. Their home was expensive but silent, like a museum where joy wasn't allowed. They were leaving yet another appointment now, walking across the plaza toward the car. Richard's mind was already on his next meeting, but a soft voice cut through his thoughts. "Hey!" Daniel's head turned. Standing a few yards away was a little girl, maybe 8, with warm brown skin, tightly braided black hair, and a faded beige shirt under a light blue vest. Her jeans were worn thin, fraying at the knees. She was barefoot, her toes darkened from the pavement. Richard knew the type: street kid. He'd seen dozens while driving through downtown. Usually, he kept Daniel away. But before he could steer the chair forward, Daniel rolled himself a few inches toward her. She stepped closer, her eyes bright. "I'm Maya," she said. "Want to play?" Daniel glanced at his wheelchair. "I can't," he muttered, voice barely audible. Maya tilted her head, not with pity but curiosity. "You can use your hands, can't you?" She extended hers. Richard opened his mouth to stop this. Strangers were dangerous, and his son was vulnerable. But something in Daniel's face made him pause. His boy was thinking. Slowly, Daniel reached out. Their fingers touched. Small, warm, unsure. Maya grinned. "There. Now we're playing." She began moving their joined hands side to side, tapping Daniel's knuckles in a strange rhythm. "You follow me," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone twice her size. Daniel tried to mimic her movements. His lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close. Maya's eyes lit up. "You're good at this," she teased. Richard stood frozen. He hadn't seen Daniel engage with another child like this since before the illness. A breeze rustled the trees overhead. People passed by, not noticing that in the middle of the plaza, something rare was happening. Maya shifted their game, turning the handshake into a quick clap sequence. 2 claps, a fist bump, a spin of the hand. Daniel laughed. The sound hit Richard like a punch to the chest. It wasn't a polite laugh. It wasn't forced. It was real, raw, unguarded joy. The kind he thought he'd never hear again. Maya laughed too, leaning in closer. "Bet you can't keep up," she challenged. "Oh yeah." Daniel fired back, his voice stronger now. He copied her movements faster, almost competitive. His chair rolled forward slightly under his own power. Richard's breath caught. His son had barely touched his wheels voluntarily in months. Yet here he was, moving without prompting, eyes locked on a barefoot girl he'd known for less than 5 minutes. Maya suddenly whispered something in his ear. Richard couldn't hear, but Daniel's eyes widened. Then, to Richard's shock, his son leaned forward, gripping the wheels, and pushed himself the last 2 feet toward her. They clasped hands again, smiling like they'd been friends forever. Richard's chest felt heavy, torn between gratitude and confusion. He didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing. He couldn't break this moment. Not yet. So he stayed where he was, watching his son come alive under the touch of a homeless girl who seemed to carry magic in her hands. And somewhere deep inside him, something he'd buried for months, something called hope began to stir. Richard's feet finally moved. He couldn't stay a silent observer any longer. His heart was pounding, his mind racing. But he walked toward them, toward his son's laughter and the girl's glowing smile. Daniel noticed first. "Dad," he started, but Richard raised a hand gently. "It's okay," he said, his voice softer than he intended. He crouched down so he was eye level with both children. Up close, the girl looked even smaller, her clothes thinner, her cheeks smudged with the city's dust. Yet her eyes were alive in a way he hadn't seen in years. Not in his son, not in himself. "What's your name?" Richard asked. "Maya," she said without hesitation. "How old are you, Maya?" 8. She straightened her back as she said it, as if the number alone gave her strength. "Where are your parents?" She glanced at the pavement. "Don't have any. Been on my own a while. It's not so bad." She shrugged like she was talking about the weather. Daniel frowned. "That's not true. You said you sleep outside sometimes." Maya gave him a playful nudge. "Don't tell all my secrets." But the truth was there in her eyes. The tiredness of someone who'd had to fight for every scrap of safety. Richard's throat tightened. "You've been living on the streets." Maya tilted her head. Sometimes in shelters, but they're crowded. I like being outside better. And anyway, I saw him." She nodded toward Daniel and he looked sad, so I thought maybe he needed someone to play with. Daniel smiled at her. "She's my friend, Dad. She's different." Richard didn't know what to say. The wind stirred around them, the sound of the city muffled by the strange bubble this moment had created. Maya stood up suddenly, moving behind Daniel's chair. "Come on," she said. "Let's try something." She placed her small hands on the back of his chair, but instead of pushing, she leaned down to whisper in his ear. "I'll be right here. Just try." Daniel's hands gripped the wheels. His face tightened in concentration. Slowly, shakily, he pushed forward. One turn of the wheels, then another, then another. Richard felt his pulse quicken. "Daniel!" But Daniel wasn't looking at him. He was looking at Maya, who clapped and laughed with every push. "See, you're stronger than you think," she said. They stopped a few yards away. Maya walked around to face him, crouching down until their eyes met. "Okay," she said quietly. "Now stand." Daniel blinked. I can't." "Yes, you can. Just for a second. I'll catch you if you fall." Richard stepped forward, panic flashing across his face. "That's not let him try." Maya interrupted firmly, her gaze locked on his. It wasn't defiance. It was certainty. Daniel placed his hands on the armrests. His arms trembled, his face twisted in effort. And then, to Richard's utter disbelief, his son's legs shifted under him. Slowly, shakily, he rose from the chair. The plaza seemed to hold its breath. 4-3 heartbeats. Daniel was standing, knees unsteady, but upright, alive. Richard's hand shot forward, ready to grab him, but Daniel grinned. "Dad, I'm doing it." Then his legs buckled and Maya caught him, lowering him gently back into the chair. She beamed. "Told you." Richard dropped to one knee beside them, his voice breaking. "Daniel, I'm so proud of you." Then he turned to Maya. "You did something no one else could. No doctor, no therapist, no one." Maya shrugged, almost shy now. "I just believed he could." Richard looked between them, his son flushed and smiling, the girl barefoot and fearless. He made a decision right there. "You're coming with us," he said. Maya blinked. "What?" "You're not sleeping on the streets tonight or ever again if you'll let me help." Her lips parted, but no words came. Daniel reached for her hand. "Please say yes. I want you to stay." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. She nodded. That evening, the black town car pulled away from the plaza with 3 passengers. In the back seat, Daniel and Maya sat side by side, whispering about the games they'd play tomorrow. Richard watched them in the mirror, his chest tight but full. For the first time in a long time, he felt something other than defeat. And as the city lights blurred past, he knew that a homeless girl with nothing had just given him everything.